Welcome back. Let's turn now to the Supreme Court. The justices handing down a total of 6 decisions today. In one, they sided with a woman out of Ohio in a reverse discrimination case. Let's go live now to Washington and CBS News chief legal correspondent Jan Crawford. Jan, good to see you again today. Can you walk us through what stood out to you in the discrimination case?
Yeah, I mean, this is a perfect example of how our system works. This is a woman who had worked 30 years in Ohio state government. She thought that she was discriminated against. A court threw out her claim. She thought the court was wrong, and so she took it all the way to the Supreme Court, and she won in a unanimous ruling written by Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. That's going to change the law for almost half the country because she took this battle to the Supreme Court. And what was her battle? She believed that she was discriminated against as a straight woman because she was demoted, she missed out on a promotion, lost both of those to 2 gay employees, and so she wanted to sue. But in Ohio and in 20 other states and the District of Columbia, as a non-minority member, a white woman, a straight woman, you have to prove an extra level of evidence. You've got to jump through another hoop to be able to have your day in court. She thought that was not fair. And today, again, unanimous ruling, the justices said, yeah, that's not what the law says. Whether you're white, straight, black, gay, it doesn't matter. Everyone's going to have the same standards under federal anti-discrimination law. So a big day for Marlene Ames. She can now try to prove her case in court, but it's also a big day for people in those states across the country. It's going to be easier for people in those situations to also get their day in court.
Yeah, a big change for them there. I want to ask you about another decision as well. The Supreme Court blocked Mexico's $10 billion lawsuit alleging that U.S. gun makers have fueled cartel violence. What stood out in that case to you?
Well, like the first one, this also was unanimous, which is, not what we think about from the Supreme Court when we hear, people talking about how they're so bitterly divided. Another unanimous decision saying that a federal appeals court just got it wrong when they said that Mexico could take Smith & Wesson and another manufacturer to court and try to recover that $10 billion for their role in cartel gun violence. Smith & Wesson argued that they were protected by this 2005 law Congress passed that limits liability for gun makers and distributors if their products are used in the commission of crimes. Mexico said, okay, but this is different because Smith & Wesson knew or should have known that their distributors, that their guns were going into Mexico and causing this cartel violence and killings, and that they were actually aiding and abetting that kind of violence. A federal appeals court in Boston actually bought that argument and said Mexico could try to prove that at trial, but the justice today said no. We're not going to expand this federal law. If you think that these manufacturers and distributors should be liable in these kind of cases, then take that up with Congress. But under their interpretation of the existing law, that is not going to fly.
Wow. And can you also talk to us about the religious rights case with Catholic Charities?
Yeah, I sound like a broken record because, again, unanimous. But it is notable because we do think that they're so, at each other's throat all the time. And we are going to have, in the next few weeks, as the court wraps up its term, some bitterly divided rulings. But again, I mean, almost half the time the court in recent years has been together, unanimous. And this is another one. It was somewhat of a controversial case about whether Catholic Charities was considered a religious organization that could get kind of exemptions under some of the state's tax laws. The Wisconsin Supreme Court said they were not primarily religious. And the Catholic Charities just said that was discrimination, religious discrimination, because they're part of the Catholic Church or an arm of the Catholic Church. Clearly they were, and the justices today sided with Catholic Charities, unanimous. Again, conservatives and liberals together, saying that the Wisconsin Supreme Court had gotten it wrong and that Catholic Charities could be entitled to that exemption.
And Jen, I will say you cannot point that out enough because it is really, really fascinating in this day and age to see the Supreme Court agree in a unanimous decision on those cases. Appreciate your time today, Jen. Thank you.
Yeah.